Roll the intro, Roth!
When the kids are
That may be an exaggeration.
This is my cue to come over and start kissing on you.
No.
kids go to sleep,
Blocked
dreams
it.
and memories.
Ow!
When the kids go to sleep.
Hi! You missed singing. You were supposed to sing that
Oh,
part.
crap! I am so rusty. That's my favorite part of the podcast,
I
is
know.
trying to harmonize with you and always failing. Always. I'm going to turn me up in my headphones because that's what Eminem would do. Right, Marshall Mathers?
I messed up the intro.
You did?
Yeah, well, I cut the music off a little bit. My bad. I'm a little rusty. Sorry.
Roth, quit ruining the podcast.
We're coming back with a bang.
All right, so we are
Welcome,
back.
welcome. We are here.
Are you nervous?
No.
Welcome,
you?
welcome, Sabbath morning. No, I'm
really,
not.
are you?
No, I mean, maybe a little bit.
I
was
think
like,
you're
all of a sudden-
excited.
I'm excited. I just like walking in here. I was like, it's the old crew. I gave Blake a big old kiss on the cheek, which he loves. He loves when I force my love upon him, like most gentlemen
Most people do.
You got a kiss?
Sorry,
Wait,
Roth.
what?
Roth's mad. Roth, you'll get a kiss too. Ron's in there. Ron's a kissy guy. Ron, what are
kissy
you
guy?
eating?
Lettuce.
Nothing but.
Let us continue this podcast. Okay, so this is episode 104. We took a year sabbatical because Colette thought she would make a person.
I just did. What's up?
He's here today. Who's watching him? Is Cecily watching him?
Cecily has the babies.
So, yeah, we have 2 in tow now. The other 3 are at school right now. So this whole kids being asleep is a total lie. So
It is.
Let's start off the
It's a
podcast with a
lie.
lie. The kids are at school right now. And our 2 sons are out gallivanting around Maker Studios. Mm-hmm. Poor Cecily has to take care of both
she
of them.
loves it.
But Jessica, who works in the editing bay, she's like in love with little brotard. So she like takes him most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Does she have him right now?
I think so. There's a couple from the editing bay that just kind of take him, and then I go find him later.
Good thing we trust these people.
Yeah.
They could just steal our children. Do we trust
We
these
love
people?
them. Yes.
Do we have their names and social security numbers?
Oh.
What if
I
they
didn't
stole
think
them?
of that.
Honey, you better go check.
Oh,
Run outside real
no!
quick. Okay, so we are back. We want to make this a regular thing. We're gonna get it back on iTunes, and then we'll figure out. We'll settle into a system. But more than anything, we're back.
We're back.
Here to talk to you.
Excited.
You know what makes
so
me-
much to talk about.
It makes me feel really good when people would tweet me and be like, "Oh shit, I need a new podcast. I would love to go jogging listening to your podcast." And that's fun because nothing is more valuable than being in a difficult exercise like a run or a bike and being able to be taken out of the stress of being on a long run, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you can find something to listen to while you're
That will
exercising.
take your mind off of
That will
that.
take your mind off of it, and all of a sudden you look up 30 minutes later and you're like, whoa, I just ran 3 miles and I was listening to this podcast. That makes me feel good, so I want to give that to you. So if you're running right now, don't think about it.
Stop thinking about it right now.
Stop thinking
Right,
about that
left,
pain in
right,
your side.
left.
Oh, is there a cramp in your knee? Oh,
man.
your knee hurts a little bit. Does it?
Oh,
It's all right. Stretch it
Kinda
out.
feeling
Stretch
sick.
it out.
Do you need a drink of water?
That's my. That's the music that I'm making with my mouth while I'm reading this text from somebody.
Why are you looking at? Stop looking at your phone. My phone was ringing, but if
Who
you'll notice,
is
I
this?
reached over and silenced
Okay,
it.
whoever, if
for
you're,
you guys.
somebody just texted me.
What?
Anyways, I don't know this person. This person is texting me, and they obviously saw my tweet, and they're asking me something about Scooby-Doo.
Okay,
But I don't
well,
know who this person is because I don't have their number saved on my phone.
I don't know.
And now I just gave away that this indeed is me because they've texted me like 6 times over the last couple months, and I've never replied to them.
Well, there you go.
So now they're gonna like, yep, he's getting my text, and he's not replying. So whoever sent me the Scooby-Doo text, identify yourself. Don't you hate that? We've gotten to a point where we don't ever answer our home phone if we don't recognize the number.
No, and sometimes it's a problem because sometimes it's somebody I need to talk to, but I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't trust it.
I remember back in the day, as a kid, I was so anxious to answer the phone whenever it rang. Mm-hmm. Just like there was so much potential on the other end of that line. Like who
so
could it
much
be?
excitement.
It could be that girl that I think's cute that I've never talked to or even looked at, but maybe she's
And
calling.
She probably doesn't have my number, but I don't care.
She doesn't even know my name, but maybe she looked it up in the phone book and she wants to make sweet, sweet love.
Wait, what?
What? Jinx. It was you.
No.
And we did, and
How
now we
old
have a
were
baby.
you? Wait,
12.
what?
Anyways, moving on, let's talk about the book.
Moving on. What book?
You know the book. All right, so
The book.
I got something in my teeth. Is it granola?
No, you don't.
I'm good? Okay. We started a book club. Well, I started a book club. We recently got a brand deal through audible.com. You have seen like every YouTuber under the sun are doing these things. And I thought, well, that might be a good opportunity to bring back the podcast. So, we could, talk about books and stuff like
and
that.
ideas.
And mostly, we've always wanted to bring back the podcast, but, little Brotard is a baby, and it's kind of hard when he's suckling on his mother's food device, is what I like to commonly refer to it as. And so now we're back, and I downloaded a book the other week called The Power of Habits. And I'm actually really excited to talk about this. The book itself, I'm not being sponsored by the guy who wrote this book. I just was looking. I asked for some suggestions on Twitter and social media outlets on what you thought would be a really good nonfiction book. I feel like this might sound bad, and maybe it's because I'm not. I feel like I am a reader, but I feel like reading a fiction book is kind of a waste of time.
I've always felt that way too.
And that's horrible to say because I know that great things can come from that, but I'm like, I would just rather spend that time watching a movie instead of reading the book.
Maybe that means our minds are too simple.
I think maybe we are simple-minded people.
No, there's only a few books that I've read for fun, and that was like The Twilight because everyone was talking about it, so I wanted to read that. And I enjoyed reading. I had a good time with it, but I feel like if I'm going to spend that time, because let's be honest, we don't have a lot of extra
we don't.
time to read or do whatever. I like to read stuff that helps me improve my life.
Right. Yeah, that's when people are like, have you seen this new show? It's like, we don't watch any TV.
No.
I mean, we watch TV. I probably watch maybe 1 to 2 hours of TV a week.
Right.
And that's usually if there's like an award show on or, a playoff game. Once it gets towards the end of the playoffs.
I think the last thing we watched together was Breaking Bad.
And we watched it online, like after we put the kids to bed.
Or something.
Because we don't want them to do meth.
Right.
Do we? Maybe they would be more. They'd get more done in school. So
what? No, that is not. He's joking. Just so you know.
Don't do meth. I think that's goes unspoken. But I mean, I don't want to be like simple-minded. Like I feel the same way. Like if I'm gonna spend time reading something, I feel like I want it to be a nonfiction book, something that I can.
But that's not to say that reading fiction books is not like.
No,
like simple.
That's what we're trying to say is that if you read fiction books, you're wasting your life.
No, I think that's a really great outlet, and it's better than TV. It's better.
Right. Well, that's true. Yeah. If you were to choose, and that's what I love about Gavin is he's always reading. I would much rather him be reading a fiction book than playing video games or watching TV or watching movies or even, I can't believe I'm saying this, watching YouTube videos.
It's true.
I'd rather he was reading books, and he loves to read. Where did he get
does.
that?
I don't know. He's always loved it.
It's crazy because as a kid, I hated to read. And it was like, I wanted to be outside and throwing stuff and jumping off of things. Mm-hmm. And Gavin will be going to a restaurant. I'm like, Gavin, put your book away. We're going out to eat. And he's like, hold on. She's like reading. But that's good.
You have to be careful with books too, though, because not everything out there is good to read. So.
I just read it I just get it for the articles.
Get the best books. What?
You dudes out there don't. Okay. Anyway.
This is spiraling downhill.
I know. It usually does.
And that's it. We'll see you next time. Later.
Are you talking about the picture version of the Book of Mormon?
Oh, it always has to come back to the Mormon thing, doesn't it, Ron? I think he's referring to... Anyways. So The Power of Habit. Let's talk about habits. This book, I downloaded it, and I'm going to give it like a first overall rating. It's not like, it's a good book, and if you've downloaded it, you've listened to it, maybe some of you liked it. I definitely like the concepts in it, but it just didn't totally capture my attention. I have listened to, I can look here, I've listened to 4.5 hours of it. It's a long book. It's called The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg, I think is how you pronounce his name. And I love this topic. The concept of habits is very interesting to me. This book, it told these long, drawn-out stories. The book opens about telling a story about this man who had this medical thing that happened to him where he basically got amnesia and he lost his memory. and he couldn't remember anything. Like his wife, his daughter, they would introduce themselves. Like, you remember the character Drew Barrymore had on 50 First Dates, where like every morning she woke up and they had to like retell her about her life? That's kind of like, this is a real example in medical history. I can't remember the guy's, and I think his name was Eugene. Anyways, it talked about in this first, like couple chapters, I was like, man, this is a long story to get to this point, that he could learn how to do things just simply because of habit. Even though he forgot like where he lived and stuff like that, he could go for walks every morning because habit is so powerful. And he could go out and walk around the neighborhood and come back to his house even though he didn't remember where he lived, because it was a habit. And if there was if something happened where like a tree was over the sidewalk or like a truck was in the way of his normal walk routine, he would get lost because he couldn't remember how to get home. But if he did the thing that was according to his habit, he could still do it. So I think the opening story, if you read the book, I think it was really kind of showing how powerful habits are. That even if you can't remember who you are or where you're going, if there's a habit that you have, you will do it and it'll control your life. There's a saying that says, we are only a collection of our habits, the things that we consecutively do day in and day out. The choices, the everyday choices that we make on a consistent, lifelong basis, that is who you are. That is who you become. The things you do, not the things necessarily that you think about or say, but the things that you actually physically do. Now, we've talked also about the things that you think about and talk about eventually turn into the things that you do, so that you have to, we always, talk about,
to filter your
you have to
thoughts
watch
and your
your
words.
mind, and you have to watch the things that you say and the things that you think about, because thoughts turn into deeds and deeds turn into actions and actions turn into a character, and that is who you are. So, this book, The Power of Habit, it talks about that and how you can change habits. So one of the concepts of the book is you cannot get rid of a bad habit. Like you can't say, I got to get rid of that bad habit. You have to replace a bad habit.
Right.
A lot of people who have suffered with smoking or alcoholism, it's like anything, if you take something that's such a big part of your life out, you have to fill it with something, or else that same thing will go back in. So just imagine your body is like all these compartments, and there's all these just certain different things about you. Say, I drink 3 gallons of yogurt every day. That's probably a bad habit. Just for instance, you could say it was whiskey. That might be more relatable for those of you out there who drink lots of whiskey. If that is a habit and that is something that you do every day and that is in your life, if you just take that out and just say, I'm going to get rid of that bad habit, something has to go into that place, because it will fill itself back up with that same habit if you don't replace it, or something else. A lot of people, for instance, will replace these bad habits with other things that are good, like exercicio. And exercise is a very, very interesting thing, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, and we'll come back to that. But it is what is known as a keystone habit. It's one of those habits or one of those things that you can do that will change everything about your life. There's small things, like if you have a habit of like biting your nails, or the little things like that. There's even shows on, all these weird networks,
Right.
like people have these weird habits, like, drinking Febreze or
that they do. Blech.
eating couches. How do you get on a life of eating couches, by the way? What's the first step to eating couches?
I think I'll try this piece of fabric.
Have you seen that?
Oh,
There's
it's
like a lady that
delicious.
eats like 1 couch a year.
No, that is so weird.
Oh, I feel like I just ate a recliner.
Don't do meth and don't eat couches.
But if you do meth, you could probably eat way more couches. Think about it.
Lesson learned from the podcast today.
If I do meth, I could probably consume at least 50% more furniture.
Interesting.
So let's talk about what...
So,
Go ahead.
question. If you take a habit out, say you're a smoker, do you necessarily need to replace it with another habit that is like a hand-mouth habit? Like
Well,
how...
So when I was...
Do you what I'm saying is, like, do you think that certain things will fulfill that hole as much as other things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely better things that you can put in place of that bad habit. And if it has to start out with something simple, like I remember when I was a missionary in the West Indies, we were trying to get this guy to stop smoking. This guy, he wanted to obey the word of wisdom, which is a law of health that Mormons live by, where you don't smoke, drink, and, take addictive substances. And so me and my companion were like, we got to help this guy quit smoking. Like, what do we do? So we went to a local pharmacy. And the pharmacist there, he said, smoking is such an addiction, not only because of the nicotine, but it's also this very like hand to mouth action where people are just used to like putting this thing in their mouth all the time. So he recommended that we get suckers, that we go buy him a bag of suckers so that every time he wanted to smoke, he just grabbed a sucker and he's like, would suck on suckers. And then later he got a lot of cavities and lost all of his teeth. Oh. No, he ate a couch. None of that happened. But yeah, that was like part of replacing the habit with something else. So instead of smoking a cigarette, he would take a sucker and put it in his mouth. Of course, you know, sugar is not a good thing in excess, especially refined sugar, but it's way better than smoke in your lungs and nicotine. So, you know, when I say a keystone habit, a keystone is like if you imagine an archway and like there's two sides of an archway. The keystone is like the stone that is right in the middle of that archway. It's basically the one thing that's holding everything up. And if you take out that keystone out of that archway, the whole thing crumbles. So in this book, The Power of Habit, he talks about keystone habits. And there's certain habits or certain things that you can do that will change not only that specific thing, but will change your entire life. And exercise is probably one of the very best examples of what is known as a keystone habit. And that means if you exercise, everybody's heard the studies and it's almost like common knowledge at this point, but your endorphins are up, you feel better, your blood gets pumping. And because of that simple habit of deciding to exercise in the morning, you then want to drink more water because, you know, you crave more water and you just, you know what I mean? Like I can't explain it, but you just feel like you want to eat cleaner. You don't want to eat those French fries. You would prefer a salad. You're in a better mood. You treat people better. You're more patient because you've kind of like worked out some of that aggression during the exercise. And that just filters down. If you can replace whatever bad habit you have with a keystone habit like exercise, it will exponentially change your entire life. Talk after cough.
So what are some other keystone habits? Like...
Yeah, like how do you identify those? I feel like religion is one. I feel like not everybody believes in that, and religion is gets a bad name because of all the stupid people throughout history who have been mean to other people in the name of religion. Me and Ron had a good talk about this the other day where Christ always taught love and kindness and acceptance, and there's so many people who use Christ and their religion to belittle other people and take away rights and, you know, are mean to other people because of it. Anyway, so... Or
thinking that they're better than others.
Yeah, thinking that, well, I believe in Jesus, so therefore I am superior.
Right. That is the wrong attitude.
Right. And I feel like we try to teach our kids that. You know, that's one thing that even this morning taking the kids to school, that we try to pound into the kids' heads every day is be nice to everybody. And that is, don't passively just be kind, but seek out people who look like they need a little bit of extra love. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
just try to understand people.
So let's not get off track too much here, and let's talk about habits and how you can change them. So in the book, he talks about...
I'm sorry. Getting off track a little bit.
What?
That makes me excited that you just brought us back on track.
Why? Because I'm usually the one that's off track.
The one's like boing, 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 boing. Wait, what are we talking about?
I'm a different man now, babe.
I'm a habit-driven man.
Was that playing?
Continue.
Was that book playing?
No,
I can't hear it.
It's not.
No, it wasn't.
I have it.
Do you want it to be?
No.
It's playing on my phone.
Yeah, I have it turned down here.
Oh, turn it up real quick.
Repainted bright yellow, and new policies were written up.
This is...
Managers told employees not to be afraid to suggest proactive maintenance.
So he's talking about habits in an organization right here. I'm on chapter 18. This is about an old steel manufacturer called Alcoa, who they had a new CEO come in right as like stocks and everything were down. And this guy thought, I need to get everybody, this was like a national-wide company. It was like a big company, big steel company. I need to get everybody on the same page. So instead of focusing on like getting numbers up and stuff, he made everybody focus on safety. He had a company-wide policy that we're going to change our habits on safety. And because they focused on one thing, this safety, it was a keystone habit, and therefore the entire organization changed and stocks went up, profits tripled because he got everybody on the same team. So in the book, Charles Duhigg talks...
Do you think that has to do with the fact that they were a more safe environment now, or the fact that they were all working together?
Both.
And that they were...
That's what a keystone
more
habit
connected.
does, is it does multiple things. It doesn't like, you know, stopping chewing on your nails will probably make your fingernails look better, which will in turn give you more confidence, which will in turn allow you to speak more openly at a job interview, which will in turn get you a job, which will in turn help you pay your bills. So it's like these things, they don't just affect one aspect. It seems like it's so like specific. Well, we're going to focus on safety, and that means that less people will get hurt and more people will go home to their wives and kids. But because everybody was on the same team of safety, it made the company run more efficient. And in order to enforce this new habit, he allowed just regular assembly line workers. And you got to remember, this is a huge company where there's like managers and vice presidents and presidents, and like this chain of command is huge. And for an assembly line worker to say, hey, this is unsafe, we need to change it this way. And the guy at the very top, the CEO who established all these safety changing habits, he would say, okay, we're going to listen to this guy because he's on the line. And that empowers that guy.
Right.
So because everybody's on this one same page that everybody can agree on, which is worker safety, nobody's going to complain about, hey, I don't think we should be as safe around here. Like, I feel like getting my arm chopped off in that giant conveyor belt over there. Everybody agreed. Everybody was on the same page. Then it brought this unity. It brought this feeling that anybody can make a difference in this giant company, because if I'm just John Q worker that's on the line getting paid $2 an hour to watch this conveyor belt go by, and I notice that there's a glitch in it and that somebody could get hurt, and I'm going to tell my manager, that manager's going to tell the vice president, who's going to tell this guy, who's going to tell the CEO, and they say, okay, guess what, John Q factory line worker mentioned this, and now we have to change everything because this is a safer way. That gives him power. That gives him like, wow, they're listening to me. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the entire organization changed because of a habit of safety. So this new CEO came in, and all the shareholders, it says at the beginning of this story, all the shareholders are like, who is this guy? Like, why is he talking about safety? How are we going to get our share prices up? Like, the business is tanking. Why is he talking about having no worker injuries for a whole year? They're like, this is ridiculous. But because of that, because he was able to change the habits of the organization, everything changed. Another example they use is Tony Dungy, the coach of the Colts. He was an unknown coach, was trying to get a job in the NFL for years. And he finally got a job with the Buccaneers a long time ago. Well, it tells a story in reverse. So now we all know that Tony Dungy is one of the most successful coaches in history, has won multiple Super Bowls with the Indianapolis Colts. Because he wasn't a great coach, of course he was a great coach. But
he wasn't a great coach.
Yes, he was a great coach. But the way he did it is he instilled habits in his players. He taught them to not think on the field. He said, you have been playing this game your entire life. You've gotten to this level of the National Football League by doing the same things over and over and over again. You just need to rely on those habits. And he taught, and he said they just worked on these habits, and you had to believe. So that's the first, I guess, step in this entire process, because we all have bad habits, right? Nobody's perfect, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. Everybody has something that they would probably like to change about themselves. Now, don't get into like, well, I just got to love myself for who I am. Yes, you do. You have to love yourself for who you are, but do not settle for being your just mediocre self, right? You got to love.
You can always improve.
I mean,
if you're not improving, then you're digressing, I feel like. If you're not seeking to improve.
And mediocrity is not a virtue. Like, just settling for being who you are doesn't bring fulfillment. It does not bring joy. Like, striving to become a better you, not striving to become better than the guy next to you, or to be the best person there is and everybody gives you a claim for it.
Or not trying to be something that everybody else wants you to be. Right. That's not what we're talking about.
So it has to start with a hope, and I think that's sometimes the very first stumbling block with people, is that if you can't even get to the step where it's like you feel like you can change that habit, or you feel like you can believe to change that habit, that's what it says in the book. Tony Dungy needed their team to believe. You have to at least have a hope that you can believe that will change. At least, like, I hope that you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to say, I want this to happen. I don't know if it will happen. I don't know if I can do it, but I would really like if I could do it. That's where you have to start, because I know there's some people that I just read in the comments when I get talking about stuff like this, like, well, Shay, it'd be easier if my life was as easy as yours, and they've already set themselves up for failure by saying that you can do it because you're just lucky, Shay. You got so lucky. You got this break, and that doesn't bother me. It just makes me worried about that person, because they're not even giving themselves the opportunity to change because they are lacking. You might want to call it faith, but it's something less than faith, because at that point you don't have even faith. You just have a hope that something good can come. What's that line in the Shawshank Redemption? Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things. Morgan Freeman's character Red says that. Dude, I love that movie. And he climbed through a pile of, I can't remember. But dude, when Andy Dufresne comes out at the end of that tunnel, he's like, oh, freedom!
If you haven't seen it, you need to go see it.
And then they go to San Wtkgts and build a boat on the beach.
Cihuatanejo.
Sorry. I'm slaughtering your language.
Down want to nurse new.
Anyway, so that was the book, The Power of Habit. I'm still listening to it. It's really good. It's really good. Focus on those keystone habits. Another thing real quick, and then we're going to take a few Twitter questions. We got 5 minutes left. Going back to your habits are who you become. It's all those little decisions. They add up, like, do you reach in the morning for an apple or for a donut? Like that one thing that doesn't matter that morning. This morning I had an apple instead of a donut. It would not have mattered at all in that moment if I would have had a donut or an apple. But over time, compiled over time, it changes your entire life. And it's hard to see that when you're young. It's hard to see that when it's like, it doesn't matter right now. This is fun. It feels good right now. It's hard to understand that when you're young, to think more of like long term.
The big picture. That's important to know though, like if you are trying to do something, because a lot of times if you're, say you're on a diet or you're trying to eat healthier and you eat one donut and you're like, well, I ruined my whole thing. Right. I'm done. I've fallen off the wagon. Like you need to realize that you can make a better choice next time, and that's still going to continue to improve. If you start stacking those good choices on top of each other, those bad ones aren't going to digress you that much.
Right.
Unless you're continuing to make the bad ones.
Yeah. It's like if you're, this is a great example. Brett the intern gave me this example. It's like if you're on a diet and you mess up, it's kind of like, if you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire in your car, do you get pissed and go pop the other 3 tires in your car? I got a flat tire. I might as well have no working tires. You don't go pop every tire you have. It's like you fix the flat tire and you keep going.
Right.
You know what I mean? Great example, Brett the intern. Okay, should we ask, let's look at the Twitter questions. We'll refresh that real quick for me, Roth. We are reading your hashtag WTKGTS tweets. Millie Hibbert, Millie, says, are you planning on having any more kids? No.
Yes.
What? We need to talk about this kind of thing. I guess in a perfect world, we would like to have one more girl.
That's what I would like one more child, for sure.
You have a horrible habit of making me impregnate you. You need to change that habit. Fill it with something else, like a hobby.
What if I like my habit?
Yeah, I like your habit. Tracy Nakamura says, WTKGS, my guest wish list, Miranda sings. Oh, we should have Miranda on here. Bailey, Flula,
that'd be cool.
Allie, Grandma Tard. Oh, these Grandma Sammy and all the kid tards, of course. Yeah, we're going to start having guests on here. We'll get some guests back. Those are fun. I look back on those old interviews. We've had a lot of cool interviews on this podcast.
Podcast guest cast.
God hates lag. Jimmy, I like that username. Will you ever publish your diary? Or is the daily vlog the only diary you will show?
Publish your personal diary?
Do people do that? I guess that's a thing, because I read some of my journal the other day in the vlog, and then I got a lot of people asking that.
Anne Frank, you could be the next.
Didn't Anne Frank already do that?
I feel like that's something, like, my journal is for my posterity, and if they want to do that, they're welcome to. But while I'm living, I don't necessarily want everything out there.
So if you died, you wouldn't mind if I made a quick buck on selling your journal?
Nope.
Okay. You guys heard it here first.
Because I'm gone.
That's legally binding. She said yep.
Wait, am I going to die before you? Is that what you're planning on? Are you planning this, like, big thing?
No, we're going to die together in one another's arms when we're 80 years old, asleep in our home.
Watch it.
Tracy Nakamura. Oh, same. Should we give her too? Oh, he scrolled past it. It's all the same people. Thanks for using my intro for the podcast for so long. Oh, yeah. No problem, Patricia. Will you be splurging out since the Disney deal? What does that mean?
Splurging out? I will probably get a new car.
Let's talk about that. You want to talk about what are we going to do with the money we get from the Disney deal?
Well, I mean,
whatever the hell
you're not
we
gonna
want.
see any of it because it'll be all mine. I'm just kidding.
No, I told Colette, I said, we're not going to spend any of it for a year.
No, yeah, we've already decided. We just want to be really
How much are we going to get?
cautious. Enough to buy a car for myself.
The thing is, we haven't even got it yet. Like, the deal hasn't even closed. So maybe we shouldn't be talking about it.
Zip it.
I mean,
Zip it.
that I talked about this a little bit, but like in my hometown article at the Idaho State Journal, like the front headline was, ex-Pocatelloan has 500 million
more
reasons to celebrate. And I was like, oh my God.
What?
I got like so many like Facebook messages from like relatives. It's a cliche. Like I got probably 4 messages from people I haven't heard from forever. Hey Shay, congratulations, share the wealth. I'm just like, oh man, it's really happening.
Oh, wow.
And not like we won't, like we will. But we get I don't want to talk about it. We're not gonna spend any of the money for at least a year because
It's an
we don't want to be
interesting
stupid with
thing
it.
when your finances are all of a sudden sort of public.
Yeah, right.
It sort of creates this weird dynamic.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I've said this before, it's tempting to just disappear.
It's tempting.
Just to be like, I'm just going to take my family now and go and hide.
Bye-bye. Goodbye. Not that we're going to do that.
But I feel like,
But it's tempting.
yeah, like I think about that. Sometimes when I feel like people are talking about that kind of stuff too much and I feel uncomfortable, I just feel like I'm like, let's just go away.
Let's go away.
We don't have to do this anymore. Like, let's just go hide somewhere. But there's no good in that. I feel like now, like Dave Ramsey says, now we have to just work on helping other people change their lives.
Yeah, and that's the exciting thing is, it's just blessing. It's a blessing in our lives. And I don't want people to feel like that we're all like, oh, we are wealthy now and we will do whatever we want. You know what I mean? What?
You're hot.
Stop. You gotta listen to what I'm saying and don't just look at me.
It's hard when you look so hot. Your words are just like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dang, girl, look at those eyes. Christine Joseph says, aren't you planning to move back to Idaho? Do any of the kids want to stay in sunny Southern California? I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Next question. I mean, I think eventually, yes.
I decided I'm not even
Idaho.
going to talk anymore.
No, are you mad at me?
Yes.
I'm listening. I was trying to compliment you.
Well, I didn't want to compliment. I wanted you to talk.
I do a lot of talking. No, I know. I hear what you're saying. I feel uncomfortable talking about it, is why.
Yeah, I could tell.
No, I do. It makes me feel like, oh, people are like, oh, you're so rich. Good for you. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But here's a lesson I will say.
But how do you talk about it? That's the question.
Some people
ask.
don't. Some people want to know about it. I know that if it wasn't me and there was somebody that I watched it online and this happened to them, I would want to know all the details. And I wouldn't. And I think that's an attitude that if you want to be wealthy and successful, you need to change your perception of, oh, I hate rich people, to be like, I'm going to be a rich person one day. Like, I've thought that my whole life. I remember, and I've told this story, there was a family that lived near us that were wealthy. And I remember other kids be like, oh, the so-and-sos, they always get to go and do all these things. They get a boat. And they were always mad. And I was like, Ron, I see it. Stop it. You're giving me the rap
It's time
sign.
to rap.
You got to change your attitude. It's that same thing with habits. If you have a hope that you can change, you will. But if you never believe that you can have these good things, then you'll never have them.
Having an attitude of gratitude and being able to be happy for other people when they're excited.
Other people's success does not take away from your opportunities.
Yeah,
there are
exactly.
unlimited opportunities out there in the world. There is not like a finite amount of success. There is plenty
all the success is gone.
for everybody.
You guys are screwed.
Yeah. Anyways, raise your arms if you love me.
Plenty of love.
I want to tickle
go
you.
around.
Okay, well, listen up. Thanks for coming to the podcast. Hopefully we said something that made sense and helped you in your life.
Maybe we didn't.
We
but
love
it's
you.
Okay.
Links below.
We'll
Click
be back
on
next
something.
time.
Thumbs up the video.
Talk gibberish.
I'm going to thumbs up your video.
It's so weird. I'm so sorry. Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah.